FEMA response leaves 40% of aid recipients homeless. 95% of kids experience PTSD. You've got a 400% spike in emergency room visits. And so you also see this massive band of waste in North Carolina after Helene. Then 99.4% of all trailers went unclaimed, undelivered, and there was a 92% eligibility to service gap. So 92% of people who were eligible for aid never saw a penny.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Today's guest, RJ Fishman, is the Chief Strategy Officer at Artanis Capital. He's a fourth-generation real estate professional, and he has a background in manufactured housing and now active in the emergency community space. You can find him and his team at artaniscap.com. RJ, thanks for taking the time today.
Of course. Thank you, Dylan. Glad to be here.
I really want to dive into manufactured housing, because when we talk about, the on-ramp to home ownership, forget real estate investing for a moment, but just home ownership in general, people are really trying to say, well, how do I get started, right? And I think more people than in previous times are now looking at some other segments just to become a homeowner. And I personally have done this living in Texas, where modular really seems to be taking off. Are you seeing this as a trend as well, where folks who might not ordinarily be thinking about modular homes are now looking into this space?
Yeah, I would say before we got into the markets that we're working in now, so about 16, 18 months ago, 2 years ago even, we were going to municipalities and saying, you've got an average sticker entry point at like $450,000. You have people making $60,000, $70,000 a year. You can't get the loan. And so we were saying to municipalities, entitle, new opportunities for modular or manufactured homes. Those, of course, mean two different things. And some people don't, just to real simply, manufactured housing, it's built to HUD code, think traditional trailer park housing, right? Governed a lot by changes that were made in 92 after Hurricane Andrew. Modular housing is a different code. It's the International Building Code, International Residential Code, and it's really more in line with standards for permanent single-family home building. So you're still talking about building in a factory, but built for a permanent housing deployment. And so what we were saying to municipalities was, whether you create new land lease models or you simply let people bring in modular homes, you're talking about bringing the cost of construction down potentially by more than 50%. And so you could get somebody's sticker point entry into a home without the land, of course, but $150,000, $125,000, and try to tackle what the challenges are for building. So are we using helical screws? Are we pouring piers? Are we doing foundations? There's a lot of ways to approach it, but in our mind, it's like, just get them rolled curbs and off-street parking, and it can still be a land lease model. It doesn't have to be trailer park, what we think of as a trailer park.
With modular homes in particular, you mentioned that they're built in a factory, but I've seen some that are very impressive. I've even heard of them being multiple stories, and I've seen, at least online, some that almost look indistinguishable from a single family home. Is there any pushback from local municipalities that you've seen as far as modular homes being put into areas where there are stick built homes? Are they saying, hey, we don't want a modular home in a community that's not built for modular homes?
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
So I think it's more about the zoning and the ordinances and who's operating the homes. I mean, obviously now we see the administration, we see members of Congress pushing back against the sort of industrial acquisition of single family homes, which I'm sure for many people that listen to your podcast and for you and your business, Dylan, like that's a problem, right? I mean, you have guys coming in and bigfooting entire subdivisions, and they're not being operated under traditional multifamily zoning codes. They're just buying single family residents. So there's a lot of NIMBYism just with any changes. And I would say it's not so much, they conflate modular manufactured. So it's getting past that sort of like definitional misunderstanding that frankly, modular can be built on site. I mean, our piece of equipment that we use, like when we're building an emergency community, we're bringing this like, 10, 12-foot piece of equipment. You push raw ribbons of steel through it. It cuts it, it shapes it, it stamps it. Sort of pieces come out, I mean, bigger than this, but look like this framing with all the screw holes. And then all you need is somebody that can swing a hammer and use an electric drill or screwdriver. And they're putting together like an erector set of framing. And as you pointed out, it can be single family, it can be multifamily, it can be single story, it can be multi-story, they can stack. But we can put together 3,000 square foot, 2-story home with a steel frame modular frame in 8 hours, give or take. And then it's just doing the trim out like you would any other home. So there's a lot of new technology that's available in that space that frankly, just again, traditional stick-built wood frame homes you're not going to see. And so everything from like magnesium oxide sheathing to deal with mold remediation, with fire, with waterproofing, again, to even just using steel frame construction versus traditional wood frame stick built. And that, takes your lifetime on a home from 30, 50 years out to 150 years. And you're not only dealing with the affordability issue, but you're also dealing with like, what's the value of the home long term? How long is it actually going to sit there? And structurally, how sound is it?
Now, when we talk about putting up a home in 8 hours, people might say, how's that possible? But of course, these are really, when they say modular, it sounds, I think, to a lot of people, they think, like, okay, it's almost like Lego blocks, right? So this is in a lot of ways conducive towards, emergency situations. We were talking about this before hopping on here. I was actually unfamiliar with this concept that modular manufactured could be used in emergency context. How long has that been going on for?
So this is really, it's a new vertical that we sort of, I'll say, invented basically a year and 12 days ago. So January 8th last year, 2025, LA catches fire, 10,000 homes go up like that. And we received a sort of challenge from a contact that we had with a nexus to the administration saying, hey, what are you guys going to do about this? I said, well, why would we do anything? I mean, it's like, what is the reason that we're doing it? So you've got supply chain, you've got the ability to sort of rapidly produce these units. You've got third-party developers who can step in and manufacture it out to site spec, but using the emergency authority of the executive, whether that's a governor or the president, to be able to circumvent local zoning, local permitting, local regulatory schemes to fast track construction. And then you can manage them. So why not put those tools together? And that's what we did in this platform that we call the emergency community. And over the course of the year, as we've explored that with the Department of Homeland Security, with FEMA, with various independent individual states from Louisiana and Texas up to North and South Carolina and Virginia even, what really encountered, Dylan, is that there's this whole sort of First of all, it's silos of data, right? Because you have so many different government programs, the state level, at the federal level, from HUD and the USDA that deal with rural and urban housing grants, to HHS, which is dealing with the challenges, and CMH, of course, of Medicare and Medicaid and preventable Medicaid expenses. So we look at it as like one cohesive environment in which people can recover, and using a community deployment setting, you can start to deal with all of these various things that are left behind. And the reason that we want to do that is because traditional FEMA response, and you know this in Texas, you guys are the second largest disaster market in the country.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Traditional FEMA response leaves 40% of aid recipients homeless. 95% of kids experience PTSD. You've got a 400% spike in emergency room visits. And so you also see this massive band of waste in North Carolina after Helene. The 99.4% of all trailers went unclaimed, undelivered, and there was a 92% eligibility to service gap. So 92% of people who were eligible for aid never saw a penny. Out of 400,000 people, thousands of families. So what we're seeing is, by being able to rapidly develop, rapidly manufacture, and then create an environment in which you can see true recovery, we can start to shift those numbers, create jobs at the same time, but also move families from like 10% mortgage eligibility 18 months after a storm to 90%. And start to really rebuild the infrastructure in these places where oftentimes it simply wasn't there before, let alone afterwards. So it's a big kind of hairy mess that we've been trying to sort of tactically challenge and address in a paradigm that we're fighting to shift. But right now, with the administration's eyes on FEMA reform and the FEMA Reform Council and the Secretary, of course, all working in tandem, we really see an opportunity here to challenge that existing paradigm.
Now, for delivery of, thousands of modular homes, I'm thinking, you don't know when this disaster is going to hit, but it's difficult to then ramp up, production from nothing. Do you have to have basically, thousands of modular homes at a facility somewhere on standby, at least in parts? How does delivery of this work?
We'd love to see the federal government, or the EMAC compact states, the states that are sort of in this emergency management interstate compact system. So again, like Florida, Louisiana, South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, the ones that are impacted in Hurricane Alley on an annual basis. We'd love to see them sitting on units the way Florida outside of Orlando has its sort of disaster hurricane preparedness response, because Florida, as an example, loses about 50,000 homes every single year to weather-related natural disasters. So it seems practical to be able to say with each of these states, here's the buckets of dollars that you have available to spend, here's the typical loss that you have, and here's what having a logistic supply of homes would look like, just the same way they've got beds and radios and generators. But having said that, if they don't want to do that, again, our positioning is we can bring the equipment to site. I can stick one of these pieces of equipment with a big ribbon of steel in a shipping container, and we can run 6 miles of steel, raw steel, through one of these machines every day, and then be framing hundreds and thousands of these units at a time. Again, it's not the framing that takes time, and if they're already built, it's not homesteading that takes time, because with helical screws, instead of pouring cement, you're talking about compressing a foundation setting period from weeks into, again, hours, literally 2 to 3 hours. We can have a home on the ground from scratch, presuming the due diligence checks out, of course, for the land. But the trim out is what takes time. So, you still have a couple of weeks of, putting in sheathing and drywall and painting and drying and curing, depending on the technology that we're using. But we also have a sort of supply of manufacturers that are both domestic and international that can help to offset some of these needs. So, God willing, knock wood, we have seasons every year like we had last year, right? Not one a major American landfall. Obviously, the Kerrville disaster.
That's right.
We're still, I think families are reeling from that, and we're still helping. We've got like an Etsy shop where we're still trying to raise money and sell merch and support the Kerrville County Relief Fund that they set up in response to it. And
Did
they
you when that happened? I'm licensed in Texas, and so I of course know people who were affected by this. Um, was there some type of uh, response from either yourself or folks like yourself to have a modular home community put out there?
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Yeah, and we believe there were about 2,200 homes that everything from actual flood damage to infrastructure inaccessibility to mold remediation problems. Because you really, I mean, especially in the South, you have like 24 to 48 hours to get in and start to remediate mold before a home becomes potentially an entire structural loss based on the risk to health of living in that unit. So as the storm was tracking, and as the waters were rising, July 4th into July 5th that weekend, we were already engaging with folks at the state about a potential response. Now, when the legislature got called in for special session, which had some of its own political challenges, it had nothing to do with the storm. But when that all came together, the focus was very much on the response systems. And less about those housing challenges. And I think those housing challenges, frankly, have kind of fallen off to the local and municipal level. So while we weren't able to deploy, what we were able to do is really test the mettle of our sort of response and recovery planning efforts and initiatives and some of our initial lobbying. And we're working with the state as we go on here to try and be positioned to be there for the next time. But there's so much transition over the course of 2025. And even now we're still waiting for the FEMA Council to come back with a report, and their charge ends in about 4 days here to do that. But we're still really waiting to see, like, are states going to be the ones leading and deciding disaster response going forward, or is it still going to be FEMA and the old school model of stick them in a trailer, give them a motel voucher, see how long they last, and hope they don't end up homeless? But that impacts 2.5 million Americans every single year, 1.5 million of whom are on aid for at least 18 months at any given time. So
Two and a
we
half
think that
million Americans are displaced out of their home.
exactly, yeah,
That is
94
a
disasters.
massive. That's like 1% of the close to 1% of the population.
It's a huge problem. And again, think about this. So think about 2.5 million Americans, 40% wind up homeless.
Okay, so let's walk through this. And of course, I'm not expecting you to have all the data here, but I had no idea it was two. If you said 100,000 Americans, I would have said that that's a lot. Are those 2.5 all due to some type of extreme weather situation? Is that what we're talking about here?
Talking about everything from, fires and flash floods to tornadoes and hurricanes. Yeah. But there are 94 declared FEMA disasters averaged, of course, every year. Now, like COVID became a FEMA declared disaster, and that had its own band of numbers that was far and away different than what we're used to experiencing. But when you're talking about things like wildfires and hurricanes and major tornado systems and flooding, it's about 2.5 million Americans.
Okay, so if we look at that, that's a massive. It's shocking to me. I'm sure everyone listening is like, that's a huge number of people. I want to ask you, unrelated to the emergency housing space. So many homes in the U.S. are still being built on stick built homes. I think that's just what we're used to, right? And you look at elsewhere in the world, and the homes might not be as pretty, but they may be somewhat more disaster resilient. Do you think that in general, there may be a push to more disaster resilient homes? Like instead of just having like a pier and beam home, that it can be like rooted in the ground, maybe even, I know no one likes concrete, but concrete's pretty indestructible when it comes to some aspects of this. Is there a trend towards more disaster resilient structures?
Yes. I mean, we believe that we should be taking the example, as you say, of other countries. And so Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Oman, Kuwait, a lot of the Middle East, they have these massive housing visions, and they call them like Vision 2030, Vision 2035, where they're building hundreds of thousands of homes, and it's government led. So they could be giving folks grants for the land acquisition and the housing building. They could be literally, taking it by the hand or with NEOM, with the sort of mega city in Saudi Arabia that, construction's been a bit of a hairy animal, but it's ongoing. It's become an R&D play place for those countries to figure out like, hey, can we like one of the things they're doing at NEOM, you got a family of four, right? I have four kids, so there's six of us and we're done. But, if you have a family of four and you decide you want to have another kid, okay, well, great. Now we got to buy a new home, right? No, at Neom, they've developed basically you can, like a Lego system, snap on more rooms to a home. So there's a ton of R&D that we could be doing as a country that we're not really doing because we don't see housing as like the same way, for example, Palantir or Seeker are developing new AI technologies to assist in the war effort and policing. Like, we need to have AI, particularly in this case, what's called physical AI, driving the future of the existing legacy technology, right? So instead of just slapping in some AI monitoring systems in your HVAC system and calling it an AI powered home, like, we need the AI, we need autonomous systems telling us what the future of housing tech looks like. And so, yes, we are seeing that. I mean, with steel frame construction, you see all of Las Vegas now is all rapidly built steel frame construction. And steel frame homes are Cat 6 proof, they're Richter 9 proof, they're fireproof, they're waterproof, they're mold resistant. And there's new technology like HydroBlock, which is an under fascia panel that reduces about 3 layers of insulation and home wrap work. And that is a fully waterproof material. It goes under your hardy plank or whatever your exterior fascia is and makes the home literally waterproof. Magnesium oxide sheathing, as I mentioned, instead of being like an hour and a half fire resistant, which is what our typical building codes require. You're talking about 4 hours. It's literally fireproofing a home. And that can be both an exterior and an interior replacement for drywall and OSB. So there's a lot of tech out there. The question becomes, Dylan, like, do people want to invest in either at the development stage or at the CapEx phase with these homes? So if you go buy a home tomorrow that's a wreck and you're going to turn it around and build it out for a family, like, would you consider that technology? Would you look at magnesium oxide
Right.
sheathing? Would you look at those options? And so it becomes a question of, A, awareness, B, affordability, C, delivery capabilities. And we think that either the emergency context, where, as I mentioned, millions of Americans, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of homes need to be built every single year, or in the industry context, so all of this direct foreign investment from, TSMC in Phoenix to Global Wafers in Texas to Meta in Louisiana, to nuclear power plants in South Carolina. Again, these are opportunities to build tens of thousands of homes at a time and explore that tech, explore everything from the AI-led development of these units to monitoring floor plans and usage to putting in fall detecting floors for grandma, or, they've got now an FDA approved dog that can, live with folks that are sunsetters, so people that start to experience dementia, Alzheimer's. It's an FDA-approved device that can be used to monitor them and call for help. I mean, starting to make those things the basic components of everything from senior living to student housing, that's where we vision the future. It's just a question of the rest of the country catching up.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like people are just accustomed to the way that homes have been built, and so are builders. And if it hasn't impacted you personally, like myself, it's shocking to think 2.5 million people. But I know that, in modular home in particular, that there's a big focus on disaster resilience. I mean, you're talking about emergency communities, but I also know that like before there's an emergency, that there's, modular homes that are being built to be, disaster resilient, and that is a focus. Whereas, if you're looking at a typical home built by a national builder, I don't know that that's necessarily the case. Certainly not in Texas, if I can speak for Texas, for example. And I think, even if it's in a 100-year floodplain and nothing has happened in a lifetime, then some, you know, black swan event can happen. And especially if you're dealing with pier and beam homes where you can see underneath the home what's going to happen when that area floods. Of course, the homes are going to get washed away. We are coming up on time here, though, RJ. Thank you for taking the time today. Where can folks go to learn more about you and your team? Also, are there any new projects that you're working on?
Yeah, so actually, we're working on a pilot with the Department of Homeland Security, and the members of Congress from Western North Carolina have been really working very hard to get that through. So we're hoping that that's an opportunity to service the victims of Hurricane Helene. That still 19,500 families will have that need for the next 2 to 3 years. We have a pilot that we are just breaking ground on anytime now with Governor Youngkin, where Governor Youngkin established the pilot. Obviously is no longer the governor as of just this last weekend, but so that's 9, as you say, resilient homes designed to last for a 500-year flood event. So again, everything from helical screws instead of traditional piers and foundations, to using new tech in sort of the full tilt building of the homes. So we've got a bunch of projects we're working on in the emergency response space, in both permanent and transitory housing, and also industry. So I would say from our website, which is Artanis, Artanis cap.com. It's Sinatra backwards if you're trying to spell it. But artaniscap.com. We're at Artanis Cap on every social media platform, and you can learn more there about really all of our verticals, from emergency communities to industry communities, Artanis Plus, our senior housing platform, student housing, and sort of how we see the future, the arena, if you will, of housing, and really appreciate Dylan the opportunity to talk more about it with folks that are trying to understand what that future looks like, and we hope that they'll follow us into it.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.